The tension was palpable. Inside the White House, President Trump was holding court with a group of governors. The topic at hand was transgender athletes in women's sports, an issue that had become a political lightning rod. Among the governors present was Janet Mills, the Democratic governor of Maine. The meeting quickly escalated into a heated confrontation between President Trump and Governor Mills. Trump had signed an executive order banning transgender women from participating in women's sports. Governor Mills, a staunch advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, vehemently disagreed, calling the order discriminatory. The room fell silent as the two leaders locked horns, a stark reminder of the deep divisions within the country. President Trump's executive order, signed on February 5, 2025, sent shockwaves through the country. The order, titled Protecting Fairness in Women's Sports, mandated that federal funding for educational institutions and athletic associations would be contingent on their compliance with the administration's interpretation of Title IX. The Trump administration defined gender based on sex assigned at birth, barring transgender girls from competing in girls' and women's sports. The order argued that allowing transgender girls to compete would give them an unfair advantage. This lack of clarity raised concerns about potential discrimination and invasive medical examinations. The order immediately faced backlash from LGBTQ+ advocacy groups, legal scholars, and several states, including Maine. They argued that the order was discriminatory, unconstitutional, and based on a flawed understanding of both gender identity and the science of athletic performance. The stage was set for a legal showdown. Governor Janet Mills refused to back down. A longtime champion of LGBTQ+ rights, she saw President Trump's executive order as an attack on the fundamental rights of transgender youth. Governor Mills had been instrumental in passing Maine's Human Rights Act, which prohibited discrimination based on gender identity. In a fiery press conference, she condemned the president's executive order as cruel and discriminatory. She vowed to fight the order with every legal tool at her disposal, declaring, "We will not be bullied into discriminating against our own citizens." Maine's high school sports governing body also stood by its policy of allowing transgender athletes to participate based on their gender identity. Despite the threat of losing federal funding, Governor Mills and a large segment of the Maine population remained resolute. They viewed this issue as a matter of principle and were prepared for a protracted legal battle. The clash between President Trump and Governor Mills over transgender athletes had far-reaching legal and political ramifications. The president's executive order set the stage for a showdown between the federal government and states like Maine that had enacted laws protecting transgender rights. Legal experts predicted a flurry of lawsuits challenging the executive order on various grounds. Some argued that the order violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Others contended that it infringed upon the rights to privacy and bodily autonomy. The executive order also raised questions about the scope of presidential power. Critics argued that President Trump was overstepping his authority by using federal funding as leverage. The political fallout further inflamed the partisan divide, highlighting the growing rift between the federal government and states like Maine. The confrontation between President Trump and Governor Mills over transgender athletes in women's sports was a watershed moment. The outcome of this battle had the potential to shape the legal landscape for transgender athletes for years to come. As the legal challenges to President Trump's executive order made their way through the courts, the future of transgender athletes remained uncertain. A ruling in favor of the Trump administration could embolden other states to enact similar bans. This would create confusion and uncertainty for transgender athletes. The battle over transgender athletes in women's sports was not just about athletics. It was about fundamental human rights. It was about the right of every individual to live authentically and to participate fully in society. The outcome of this fight would have a profound impact on the lives of transgender youth across the country.